This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Friday, December 16th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From The Guardian, Peru declares 30-day state of emergency amid protests at president's arrest. In response to, at times, violent demonstrations that have popped up across the country in the wake of now former President Castillo's arrest, the Peruvian government has declared a month-long state of emergency that will, among other things, suspend citizens' right to gather and move freely during a period when people typically do both of those things quite a lot for the holidays. Castillo was arrested a week ago after he attempted what his fellow politicians have called a coup. He tried to dissolve the government, including Congress, so they couldn't vote him out of office based on corruption allegations. And in the days since, protesters calling for the replacement of all lawmakers and for Castillo to be returned to office have clashed with police, leading to the deaths of at least 8 people, alongside a great deal of public disruption. And there's a chance this new declaration could lead to more such disruptions from people whose holiday plans have been upended. From Axios, China to stop reporting asymptomatic COVID cases. Chinese officials announced yesterday that they would no longer report asymptomatic COVID-19 case numbers, ending a long-term policy of assiduously reporting this sort of data, at a moment in which their prior methods are being replaced by less draconian policies, and during which infection numbers are reportedly ballooning. This loosening of regulations has been a welcome pivot to many, but it has also led to an explosion of new infections and worries about getting infected, which has caused different sorts of damage to China's social norms and economy. That said, there is a slow wave of new infections rising in many cities around the world right now, and other governments are changing their tactics to account for that increase as well. And speaking of which, if you live in the United States, the government is giving away free COVID tests again, which is something they stopped doing in September, but decided to start up again to help folks face this new winter wave. You can sign up to receive your free tests at special.usps.com/testkits. And from Reuters, ECB slows rate hikes but pledges more to keep up inflation fight. The European Central Bank has announced a 0.5 percentage point hike on interest rates, following the US Federal Reserve and Bank of England's lead in continuing to increase interest rates, but slowing the pace of that increase. This wave of smaller increases was anticipated, and that anticipation was all but locked in following recent numbers that show a general slowing in inflation rates globally, amidst recessionary figures that are flashing warning lights. In other words, these federal banking agencies need to keep the pressure on so inflation rates keep dropping, but they're also keen not to overshoot that goal and tip the world into a serious recession. So this new round of interest rate hikes, which are intended to help with the former, are smaller than recent hikes in order to hopefully avoid the latter. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.